Welcome to the Choice, Change and Action podcast, where you get to choose, change and take action to create a different today and a different future. These are my stories of choice, change and action, along with the phenomenal guests I have on here. From a really young age, I've always desired to create a change in the world. The planet has been a constant inspiration to me, and Access Consciousness has shown me the tools to know that anything is possible. And I keep choosing. What are you going to choose? Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Choice, Change and Action podcast, and welcome to February 2022. So you have me today, your host and guest and all of the above and more. And the topic that we're sort of talking about for the month of February, well, not sort of, I am talking about this is vulnerability. And I was just sitting out on my balcony, which is just such a beautiful, beautiful spot for me to sit on. You know, I can hear the ocean. I have, lots of beautiful plants around. I have a really comfortable couch, and there's this one corner that I sit in that I can actually see the ocean. When the waves are huge, you can see the waves coming in and crashing, and you've got the birds and you've got the trees, and it's just such a beautiful, nurturing spot. I was just sitting out there, and I was meant to be doing something else this afternoon, and that changed. And I started thinking about this, and I started putting my attention on this amongst many other projects, as I do. And I wanted to start talking to this energy because, well, vulnerability is quite vulnerable, and there's a lot of aspects to this. So let's see what we can talk about today. And I actually haven't chosen the people I'm interviewing for this month, and I'm asking the universe, it's like, okay, so who's going to contribute to this? Because being vulnerable and choosing vulnerability takes a lot of courage. And I sort of want to go over a few different areas today and look at that. Now, first of all, I want to change your point of view about vulnerability as well, because so many people, how many of you have grown up and you look at vulnerability as a weakness? It's like, oh, they're vulnerable. It's vulnerable. Like, it's vulnerable. It might break. It might da-da-da. So there's this energy that when someone says you're being vulnerable or they're being vulnerable, that more or less goes to that it's weak, it might break, etc., or something like that. So what I'd like to do is, first off, is everything that you've decided vulnerability is, and everywhere that you decided that you would never, ever, 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 ever be vulnerable because you've decided it would mean that you were weak, will you destroy and uncreate it? And everything that is right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. And of course, that's the Access Consciousness Clearing Statement. And you can find out more about that on my show notes page too. And you can go to theclearingstatement.com. But here's the thing. It's like if you grew up and you had, a mother or a father or a family member or anyone or a teacher, there's such a huge influence. And them saying to you, this energy of vulnerability is don't be that, be strong. I mean, how much are boys told don't cry? Boys don't cry, hold it in sort of thing, be a man, all of that. It's like, no, what if you were empowered to be vulnerable? So the way you use that clearing statement as well is when you destroy and uncreate all of your points of view about vulnerability, then you can actually start to be vulnerable and choose vulnerability. Now, I'm going to give you a few of my definitions, I guess, that I've come across or that I've chosen or throughout the years of using Access Consciousness tools and how I would describe vulnerability. So I would say vulnerability is the willingness to be totally present and never refuse anything. Like, it's total receiving. Now, let me break that one down for you slightly as well, because how many of you are willing to receive happy? Like I went out for a friend's birthday the other day, and we sat down, and one of the people, like a really good friend of mine, we sat down and they were in such a bad mood for some certain things that had occurred, like the, having to check in at the restaurant, etc., and the crazy, insane shit that's going on in the world. All right. And, they have the access tools, and we asked a few questions, and they said, you just leave me for 10, 15 minutes, right? And so, of course, it's like, it's like letting you be anything. So here's the thing. If I was not willing to receive my friend being in that mood, I can only receive them when they're happy and when they're joyful and when they're a contribution. It's like, is that a kindness? But also, I was totally in allowance of just like, yeah, cool, you got it. I'm going to order a cocktail. I'm going to do this, da, da, da. And, I'm here. I've got you back. I'm here. And that vulnerability and the willingness to be totally present in any moment and not refuse any energy. Because we have this point of view of there's certain energies I will receive and certain energies I will not receive. What if you receive them all? What if vulnerability is total receiving? So all the people around you, your friends, your family, your colleagues, etc., you don't project at them, you need to be XYZ in order to be in my life. It's like, you can be anything. You can be anything, and I'm okay with that. I'm willing to receive you when you're happy, when you're frustrated, when you're cranky. I'm willing to receive you when you're you. It's way more fun. And I'm willing to receive you when you are not you, when you are not being you. But what if part of being vulnerable and total receiving is not about judging anyone or anything? And that, with the judgment, Gary Douglas, the founder of Access Consciousness, years ago, he said, the day that he realized that judgment was nothing but this big black dark hole and it got you absolutely nowhere, he made the choice that he would never ever judge himself or anyone else again. So I offered to you that home play for the rest of your friggin' life. It's like, what if you were willing to receive everything and anything with no judgment? Like anything and everything with no judgment. And, I was looking at this too. I was meant to be meeting up with a friend this afternoon, and they rang me and they felt so bad, but their body wasn't doing so great. And I was like, hey, and I was like, if you don't want to come up, that's totally fine. It's like, ask your body, what does it desire? And they started to look at that, and I'm like, oh, my body is like sort of happier if I just put my phones down and go and relax and watch a movie. And I'm like, so go do that. Like, and how many people try and fulfill somebody else's needs, like go, oh, well, because I made this agreement before, I have to stand by it, rather than actually acknowledge what is and choose what works for them. Now, here's the interesting piece that's often quite hard for people to understand. Choose what works for you, which also includes others. Like in this moment, I wouldn't have been doing this podcast if I was meeting up with my friend. And I said, don't worry, it's totally fine. I'm so good at entertaining myself. I have so many projects that, I can work on. And those days where you go, maybe you think it's you think it's Tuesday, and then you find out it's Monday and you go, I just got another day of the week, or I just got an afternoon. And I literally did that. I went, oh, I've just got a whole afternoon and evening. Okay, now what can I create? I mean, call me insane. I should give that to myself anyway. But hey, now here I am with this. And I said, hey, I'm really grateful that you're actually choosing what works for your body. Because if we can all, and that's the level of vulnerability, like actually choosing what works for your body, not pushing your body, not forcing your body, etc. It's like having this kindness with your body, like that vulnerability. Are you willing to be that vulnerable with your body? And I'll give you a few little, stories here and some questions that you can actually take away. Let's look at movement with your body. Okay. So what is your body like to choose to move? Not you, okay? So there's two things here, right? You are the being, and then you've got your body. You are the one that goes, oh, we should go to the gym, we should do this, we should go for a hike, we should run, or we shouldn't do any of that. Like there's the opposite. Some people are like, no, my body doesn't want to do anything. And your body's like, yes, I do. but you're not hearing it because you're not willing to be vulnerable with your body and create that level of kindness with your body that allows you to hear it and listen to it. And it's not about getting it right. It's about actually listening to the whispers that your body gives you continuously and choosing from that. It's like creating with your body is a choice in every 10 seconds. Like every 10 seconds, okay, body, now what would you like? Okay, next 10 seconds, body, what would you like? And if you look at, like I said, the movement with your body and that level of vulnerability that you can be, you might go for a run and then you get down. I did this the other day, actually. I went to go for a run. I went down the street. I was like a tenth of what I would usually do. And I ran into this girl, and she's holding a chicken, holding a live chicken. And she looks at me and she grabbed my attention and I stopped. And she went, "Excuse me, do you know anyone who owns chickens around here?" I said, "No." And anyway, what it got to was this chicken had run across the road. Now, I live in a neighborhood that chickens are not I don't live out in a farm, okay? I live at Peregian Beach in Sunshine Coast in Queensland, Australia, okay? Now, you will get bush turkeys. Bush turkeys do run around randomly, but this was a chicken, right? Like a chook, a chook. And it was friendly. Like it was used to being picked up. And she said, "Hey, I found this chicken." And she said, "It's obviously someone's pet. Like, look at the way it's being." And it was just like snuggling into her, right? And so we went on this like little excursion of trying to find out who owned this chicken. And, it took us like 5 minutes or something. And we found who owned the chicken and put it in the backyard, like snuck into their backyard because they weren't home, and put the chicken in there, right? Now, then it started raining and I could have kept running in the rain. But I literally asked my body, and my body was like, "Let's go home." It's like, maybe we can go. I've got a Pilates reformer at home. Maybe we can go do some Pilates. And I went, oh, I literally ran down the street so that I could, help this woman with this chicken. Okay. But that's being vulnerable in asking the question of, what is your body aware of? And then I turned home. It wasn't like I have to keep running because I have to do this whole run and this is what I'm supposed to do. But how many of you do that? And how many of you override your body rather than asking your body a question? Now, probably about a year ago, I think, I was at Pilates and I injured myself. And I was talking to Gary Douglas, the founder of Access, and he was helping me out and he was asking me some questions. And then I went, "But it was," and he said, "Don't you tell me it was so much fun." And I went, "But it was fun." he goes, "Yes." He said, "But every time you say something's fun," he said, that's right. He said, "You need to stop every single time you say it's so much fun." Now, I didn't ask another question. I could have asked another question then, but I didn't. I got off the phone and I got a little cranky because I was like, "What do you mean? I'm not meant to do anything fun with my body." And then I realized when I did start to ask myself questions and my body questions, I went, oh, as soon as I say this is so much fun, you know what I stopped doing? I stopped being in question with my body. And I was trying to do these handstands, etc. And I was having fun. And my Pilates instructor was like, "Hey, do you want to do any more?" And I went, "Yeah, just 2 more because it's so much fun." No question in there of like, "Hey, body, are you done?" And my body was done. Okay. So, and most people are not willing to be kind to their body. Like you think I've got to do this huge amount of workout or I've got to do this massive stuff. And your body's like, no, even if food. Like you go, "Oh, I've got to eat this whole meal." And your body might go, "Can we just have that?" There's some days that you just want to eat everything. You eat a meal and then you're like, "Oh, I'd like another meal." And then other days you're like, "No, food, have no interest in food whatsoever." Well, that's being vulnerable with your body to listen to it, to not create stress through your body. And so many people create so much stress in their body and that's how they choose. What if you started to recognize the stress and then you destroyed and uncreated everything that is allowing that to be the energy that you have in your body and ask for something different? It's like, what role are you trying to play with your body? Are you trying to be, the dominator It's like, are you trying to override it every day? Do you get cranky at it? Do you get angry at it? It's like, how do you greet your body each and every day? What if there was a kindness, and what if there was a vulnerability you could be with your body? So I'd like to give you some other home play too. It's like every single morning, it's like when you wake up, put your hands on your body somewhere and just ask and say, hey, body. It's like, good morning. I do it every morning. I have a little conversation. It can be 10 seconds. It could be a minute. I literally talk out loud as well. And I'm like, hey, body, and have a little chat. And it's like, how much fun can we have today? Or it's like, oh, I'm so grateful for you. Thank you so much. Because I am having way more fun with my body. And I was actually looking at some photos the other day and I went, God, that was like 10 years ago. I look so different. And I look so much better now. I'm having way more fun with my life, with my body, with living, with everything, with my choices. But guess what? One of the elements that I have definitely chosen is to be more vulnerable and not judge. So how many of you are trying to judge your body into something rather than being questioned and be vulnerable with it and listen? What if your choices were about the kindness that you can be to you and for you? And everything that is, we destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. Now, true vulnerability with your body is literally going to be beyond this reality. And what do I mean by that? Well, like I said, it's like, people go, oh, you should have some time off. You're meant to get, X amount of hours sleep a night. I mean, gone are the days of working Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. I get it. But you know what I mean when I say it. It's like, you have work, then you have play, then you're meant to have holidays. You're meant to eat a certain amount of food. And it's funny, if you look at the pyramid for food that you grew up with, it's like what you're meant to eat, the 5 food groups, etc. And then it pretty much like flipped itself to be the trendy way to eat rather than, well, I'm saying, I'm putting something else out there. What if true vulnerability is beyond anything you've ever been shown? And true vulnerability is you asking your body, what would you like to eat? What movement would you like? Who would you like to play with? Like, ask these questions and be willing to have anything show up. Here's a tool that I'm going to insert, and I've probably spoken about this quite a few times, is just for me, just for fun, don't tell anyone. I don't mean keeping everything a secret and being all dodgy and everything. I just mean just for me, just for fun, don't tell anyone. You don't need to like yell to the world about what is going on. Okay? So that's being vulnerable with your body. And the true vulnerability, like I said, is choosing beyond this reality, like beyond society. What if every single thing you've ever been told, you found out was a lie? Like everything you've ever been told, you found out was a lie to do with your body, to do with, money, to do with business, to do with relationships. It's like, what do you know? So vulnerability is the willingness to receive everything and anything with no judgment. Vulnerability is the willingness to have all of you, like all of you, like, yeah, all of you. Vulnerability is the willingness to know you. You are the only one that knows you. I don't care if you've been in a relationship for 50 years and you're sleeping next to the same person, you're living with them, you're talking to them every day. Nobody knows you like you know you. And you know that. When I say that, you know that. So vulnerability is knowing you. Vulnerability is not judging you. So one of the things that we do talk about in Access Consciousness, and Brendan Watt and myself spoke about, I'm being like a bit of an Italian speaking English now. We spoke about it in our book, Relationship, Are You Sure You Want One? It's in the Relationship Done Different classes, which there's a lot of Relationship Done Different certified facilitators around the world. Please check them out. Is the 5 elements of intimacy is honor, trust, allowance, gratitude, and vulnerability. But here's the thing, you've got vulnerability in there, right? In order to be truly vulnerable, it holds hands with all the other elements of intimacy. It holds hands with honoring, because if you're being vulnerable with you, you're honoring of you. If you're truly being vulnerable with yourself and the willingness to receive everything and anything with no judgment, total receiving, then there's a level of trust that you have of you. There's also allowance that you have of you. You know those times that you stumble and fall and you're like, whoops. And it's like, well, what if you could laugh out loud? And one of the questions you asked is, what's so funny about me? I'm not laughing about it. And also what holds hands with that is gratitude. It's like you can't be vulnerable without being grateful. Like gratitude and vulnerable really hold hands together. And there's I found this piece we have like these reference materials for access. Like if you've been to some of the classes, Foundation or Choice of Possibilities, the more advanced classes, you can actually purchase the reference materials. They're from the manuals from years and years and years of, talking about something and then putting something into the reference material so that we still have the information. So this is a little bit like, so let me read you this part. It says, when you truly have gratitude, it's not like I feel happy. It's this sense of peace and expansion that has no solidity to it at all. No solidity to it at all. When you have total gratitude, it's like being air. Gratitude is space. When you have space, you feel nothing. But most people, this is me talking now, not the reference materials, most people try and fill that space with something. And let me give you an example. The next time, especially if you're in a small proximity, like if you're in a car with someone and there's silence, notice how quickly somebody goes to talk. Or if you're at a dinner table or, I don't know, with friends, etc. The next time there's this space, how many people misidentify it as silence, and then they must fill the space and the silence with usually a conclusion and a point of view and a judgment. What I'm going to ask of you is the next time you perceive that energy of space, let it be space. Just allow it to be space, even if it means that other people are uncomfortable, because most people will get so uncomfortable with that much space that they will, like I said before, try and fill it. And they'll try and fill it with some conclusion or try and control it. But what if you were willing to be that space? It's like the space of knowing. That space of knowing that you're different, because, hello, ladies and gentlemen, breaking news, you're different than everybody else, right? It's like the whole life you've been trying to fit in and you do not fit. You've never fitted. What if you stopped trying to fit in? And what if you're willing to be that vulnerable with yourself and have a huge amount of gratitude that you did create that huge amount of space, and from that space, you can ask for something greater, you can create something greater, and you can actualize everything that it is you desire. Now, that last piece, actualizing everything that it is you desire. How many of you are holding yourself back for somebody else? Like, who do you think of when you choose? Who do you think of? Do you think of your partners? Do you think of your kids? Do you think of your religion? Do you think of your culture? Do you think of your next door neighbor? Who do you think of before you choose? What if you were number one? What if you started to value you and you never ever took anything personally? Most people go to take something personally. What if you never ever took anything personally again and you have all of you? That is a level of vulnerability that most of you have not been willing to choose. What if today was the day that you started choosing it? And everything that brought up and everywhere that you went, how am I going to do that? You destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. So with this vulnerability too, it's like I get what I'm going to explore throughout this month is, and this just came to me, like this is the level of vulnerability that when you ask, it's like not trying to work everything out and not trying to control everything. We're going to do one, I think I'm going to do one on money and probably one on relationships as well. And I'll see what else the other one is. But if you actually really want to like dive deep into this too, please, it's like, listen to all the podcasts I do this month and all of the tools that we're talking about. This month I have a Choice, Change and Action membership. We've got the podcast, Choice, Change and Action, easy for me to say, and the membership, Choice, Change and Action. And you can go to SimoneMilasas.com/membership, okay? And you can sign up. Now it is a membership, okay? So when you sign up, it's monthly, yet you can cancel your subscription at any time, just like a subscription, an app on your phone, etc. But the February one is called What If Being Vulnerable Was Your Strength? So the call, and I have a call with everyone jumps on from all over the world, and we have a call and we run processes, tools, etc., and we will explore that topic. Now, what we also have is we've got a special guest on for the month of February, which is actually Brendan Watt. And he's got a fair few stories to tell at the moment. His life in the last 4 months has been pretty full on. He found out, realized he had actually admitted, let's say that. He admitted that he was an alcoholic and ended up going to a rehab in Italy he's had a few hiccups, but hasn't really drunk alcohol in quite a few months now. And God, the level of vulnerability that he's chosen with that is inspiring. So he's our guest on the Choice, Change and Action membership. So when you sign up for that, you get the guest speaker, you get a call with me, and you also get something that's really fun called the hot seat. I actually just realized I said it's really fun, but some people might be absolutely exterified. You know what exterified is? That means terrified and excited at exactly the same moment. It's a made up word, yes. And the hot seat is, we ask for who wants to come on and we randomly pick someone, and it's a 30-minute private session with me that people can come on and watch as well. Bit of voyeurism. But I'm always amazed at how much it just expands everybody else. So if you're interested, the month of February is What If Being Vulnerable Was Your Strength? And we get to play and sort of delve, deeper into that as well. And this whole month in the podcast is about that. So let's play with vulnerability together, and let's also, you can just listen to this podcast a couple of times and get the questions. And what I'm going to ask you is, what would vulnerability give you that you've been refusing to receive? That if you allowed yourself to truly choose to be vulnerable, would gift you the world. And everything at that is times a Godzillion, we destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. What if today was the day that you no longer had to put your dukes up? And when I say dukes, I mean like your fighting fists. You no longer have to defend your reality. You no longer have to justify your choices. You no longer have to go in fighting, guns blazing, put up all these barriers and be like, nobody's going to get me. You know why? Because you're being vulnerable. No one can get you. It's like, it's like they can try. And it's like at one stage, Gary described vulnerability, which I loved this description. He said, it's just like being a big marshmallow and you poke it and it just goes back to being a marshmallow. So like I said, right at the beginning, what if every single thing you've ever been told you found out was a lie, and everything you've ever been told about vulnerability, what if that was all a lie? And what if you get to discover what that is now? What if you get to discover what vulnerability is for you? And start with anything. Start with the vulnerability like we explored today with your body. What is your body asking for that you haven't been willing to give it? What is that? And it's like, is it play, like in sex? Is it food? Is it movement? Does it what would it like? Like even the other day, I was starting to, my body was starting to feel not so great, which I apologize. I feel like I'm a little nasally today. And then my body was like, hey, let's go to the beach, like vitamin D. And, most people's points of view in Australia at the middle of the day, lying on the beach is not supposed to be a quote unquote good thing. And I was like, okay. So we went and lay in the sun, some vitamin D. Thank you. Let's go. That's what I mean. Society will project at you what is right, what is good, what is perfect, what is correct, and pretty much, project at you that you have been wrong with every choice you've made. I'm here to suggest something entirely different. What if you're not right with every choice you make, but what if you play with every choice you make? And that is true vulnerability beyond this reality, beyond what society is projecting and expecting of you. This is your friggin' life, guys. This is your life. Are you living it? Are you truly choosing what it is that you'd like to be choosing? So thank you so much for joining me here today. I'm sorry that I'm not on video, but I think it's a bit weird just being me. So we're going to, I don't know, put up something random. You would have already watched it. Oh, but hey, if you're just listening on the podcast, that's so not relevant. But did you know that you can find us on YouTube now as well? So when I have the guests on YouTube, etc., go check it out, do all that stuff. Thank you for being here. I'm truly, truly, truly grateful, and have the most awesome day ever. Bye-bye. If you enjoyed this podcast, please make sure to hit the follow or subscribe button on your favorite listening platform to get notified of new episodes. We read all the reviews, so if there's any topic you would like to hear about, let us know. If you'd like to know more about the tools, information, and classes mentioned in the podcast, head on over to SimoneMilasas.com and follow me on Instagram at Simone Milasas, or the podcast has its very own link on Instagram at Choice, Change, and Action. Don't forget, you can download the show notes. And lastly, have way too much fun today.